he ended up raping me. And he threatened me or whatever, saying that if I told anyone, he would hurt me. I believed him because he just got out of prison. I didn't know why he was in prison. And like before I could even finish my sentence, he grabs me by my vagina and just starts slinging me around. And I ended up getting pregnant. So I think I found out July, and I told him he was trying to make me the baby and myself. So time goes on. I kept it a secret for a long time until I couldn't anymore. I told my sister what happened. She ended up sending me back home with my parents. My parents was like, if I wasn't dressed in hoish or whatever, it would not happen to me. Yeah, so it was horrible. I tried to, unalive myself and everything because of the situation. Like nothing was done. So it did come out like after I had my son. I was 15 at the time and I had my son at 16. As I said, he was telling people that I was fantasizing about him and everything like that. So the DNA test came back that he was the father, 99.9% or whatever. So he did end up getting arrested, but I think he got arrested for something else. And then when he was in jail, they went ahead and charged him with that too. Like the day we had my father's funeral was the same day I had my daughter. Like a lot, I was going through postpartum depression. I was already depressed anyway. So the depression on top of the postpartum, I wasn't able to grieve my father because I was pregnant. So, I at that point I was done. I was tired of him putting his hands on me and everything. So I ended up going to the car, and I had got his gun out the car, and I was trying to unalive him or whatever because the things that he took me throughout the 5 years it was unacceptable, and I couldn't take it no more.
She was 15 years old the first time someone she was supposed to trust destroyed her. By 16, she was raising his child. By the time she found love, or what she thought was love, she was working 3 jobs, getting beaten behind closed doors, and burying her father the same night she gave birth. And just when you think you have heard everything, her biological mother had been with both of them. This is Shamaya's story, and she told every single word of it herself.
So basically, I'm adopted. I think I was adopted at the age of 1. At least that's what I've been telling people. Anywho, so things was going bad with my parents who were taking care of me or whatever. So I ended up getting expelled from school, which is another story for another day. I was in 9th grade at the time, and a lot of stuff had happened or whatever, so I ended up getting expelled. My parents worked in the school system, so they couldn't stay home to keep an eye on me, and my brothers couldn't either. So my people decided they want to contact CPS to try to get me back in the system. So they brought out a therapist who, talked to me or whatever, and she was like, maybe she needs to see where she come from. So I could meet my biological father, but I could not meet my biological mother because her rights was terminated. So meaning that I couldn't see her or talk to her until I was 18. So I ended up going to my biological father's house during school days, and then it got to the point where I could spend a night. So one day I came, I think it was like I don't know if it was a party or what was going on, but my uncle was at my dad's house, well, my daddy's girlfriend house, and he was like, they need to get some more stuff from the store. So he was asking us, did we want to go to Family Dollar with him to go, get the stuff or whatever. Nobody went except for me. So I go, we get down the road, he's touching my leg. Pop, no, we're family, we don't do that. So like you're passing it, and you're like, no, we're going to another one. So we go past another one, like literally, like at this point we're passing another one. He was like, no, I'm not going to that one. So we ended up behind a church. The parking lot was behind the church, so the car wasn't visible to the road or whatever because the church was in front of it. He ended up raping me. And he threatened me or whatever, saying that if I told anyone, he would hurt me. I believed him because he just got out of prison. I didn't know why he was in prison. And I ended up getting pregnant. So I think I found out July 4th. I was at one of my family members' houses or whatever, and I found out, and I told him he was trying to make me kill the baby and myself. So, time goes on. I kept it a secret for a long time until I couldn't anymore. And when everything came out, boy, both families' reactions, both families' reactions was, very, I ain't gonna say on point, but everybody was just highly ticked off. He ended up graping me for months. So I ended up, I was in alternative school when school started back. So one of my classmates was like, Shamaya, you pregnant? I was like, girl, stop, chill out. Like, you got to do stuff in order to get pregnant or whatever. Not wanting people to know the situation, but it got so bad. The rumors had got so bad that the counselor ended up coming to get me out of class, and I just told everything. So I knew that they was going to call my parents, but I knew my mama was going to answer the phone because my mama she never answers. She really don't. So, I ended up writing a letter because at the time I couldn't talk to my parents about anything. It was very hard for me to do. So I wrote a letter and I gave it to my mama when I got in the car, and she read the letter. She didn't say anything to me. I was so scared, y'all. She didn't say anything to me. So we got to the house. She was like, don't move. Don't move until we get back. Till her and my dad got back home. So my mom and daddy get back home. They got a pregnancy test. Pregnancy test come back, yes, pregnant. Okay, duh, we knew that. So my mom and dad sit down with me trying to figure out like who was the dad, because at that time I was around a lot of men. But to be honest, like when I was at my daddy's house, like that was free range for me to do anything for real, because at that point I feel like my dad had really gave up on life and his aspirations and everything or whatever. So I was really able to do whatever I wanted to do, how I wanted to do it, when I wanted to do it, whatever. So they was trying to figure out who it was or whatever. At first they thought, they was saying was my goddaddy, was my daddy, who it was. So I told them who it was or whatever, because I didn't want to end back up in the system, because that situation was very hard for them, because it painted a bad picture on them as well as everybody else or whatever, but mainly for them because they was responsible for me. So I told them who it was, and the next day we went to the hospital. I think we got up to the hospital about 11. We got up there early. I know that we didn't leave till nighttime. Bibb County was up there, Houston County, the whole defects, everybody was up there, okay? And when crap hit the fan, my uncle started telling people that I was fantasizing about him, everything like that. But me, the type of person I am, I'm a writer. I write down everything, how I feel or whatever, because that's how I express myself. If I can't talk to people, that's how I do it. And that's what I did. I wrote down everything. I had a diary, I had a journal, I had a laptop. They took everything. They did. So, it did come out, like, after I had my son. I was 15 at the time, and I had my son at 16. So, I ended up, I don't know what the name is. I think my caseworker ended up naming him. And that's how he got his name. As I said, he was telling people that I was fantasizing about him and everything like that. So, the DNA test came back that he was the father, 99.9% or whatever. So, he did end up getting arrested, but I think he got arrested for something else. And then when he was in jail, they went ahead and charged him with that too. Okay. For the city that I was staying in, and then the city that he took me to do the acts or whatever like that. Okay. So he's doing 15 years and then another 15 on top of 30 years and all. I haven't heard anything from him. Like, he would try to reach out and everything like that, but I closed that off. And now I haven't heard from him anything. Like like my biological family, they don't treat me any type of way no more. Well, I ain't gonna say treat me any type of way, but we all on one accord with everything. We don't bring up the situation. We don't talk about it. Nor does my foster family. But it is gonna be a time where I am gonna have to tell my son about how he came to be, because he does know that my husband is not his father. He knows that his father is in jail. He just doesn't know the situation, how that is or whatever like that. And he asks questions, but I'm just not ready to tell him. He's only 7. He is smart, but it's only so much that he can understand. So I'm gonna wait till he get a little older to understand, get the full effects of it. But I am kind of scared because I don't know how he's going to react.
That's a tough conversation.
Hearing that, because I don't know how I would react hearing that. So we're just gonna see how that goes. But there's more to the story. My uncle did tell another person about this situation before he got locked up. But a lot of y'all had questions. Families go through this, keep the baby, tell the baby that the mama is somebody else in the family. I'm not doing that. I done been through this situation my whole life. I done been talked about this situation my whole life. So nothing anybody can say on the internet is gonna hurt my feelings about the situation. I made my choice. I kept my child, and I'm glad I did, because my child saved me in a way. So yeah, if you have any more questions, I mean, my line is open. Mind y'all, this was 7-8 years ago, so it's been a while, okay? So I don't feel no type of way about speaking about it. And like I said, people done talked about me very bad about the whole situation. And if I can get through that, I can get through anything y'all saying that's not hurting my feelings. Understand people are confused, they don't know the situation, but I'm explaining it. So no need to feel like, I mean, everybody got their own opinions, but I'm not sick. Yes, I kept my child. I know a lot of women don't do that, but I'm glad that I did. I'm glad that I got to see him grow up. I'm glad I got to go through the things that I went through with him. And like I said, it's not going to be easy telling him the situation, but it is what it is. So apparently I'm going to have to go back into my younger days to explain everything up to now. So, you know, that wasn't my first time getting raped or anything like that, and the reason why I didn't speak up, because like I said, I have been raped before and basically nothing was done. So the first time that I can remember something happening to me was when I was 5 years old. My dad had a church or whatever. My dad is a pastor, and we didn't have a big church or anything like that. So you know, the congregation used to come to our house sometimes, and, you know, like, everybody would spend the night. So this one particular time, I think my sisters was gone. I don't know. I don't remember thoroughly, but I know the girls shared a room, the boys shared a room, and the adults, like, slept in, like, the living room, other parts of the house or whatever like that. So, one of the girls, well, the girl, got out her bed, and she came over there touching me and doing things to me. So it just so happens that I think it was either my mom had came to the door, like, checking on everybody or whatever like that, and seeing what was going on or whatever. So we ended up getting in trouble, basically, even though I didn't do anything. They had put soap in our mouths and everything. We was getting ridiculed like crazy. I ended up getting a whipping for somebody more than me. Now, mind you, you know, as I grew up, you know, my parents did apologize. They didn't even know I had remembered that situation or whatever like that, but I did. But I ended up getting in trouble for that, and I had to sleep in my parents' room. So that was like the start of everything. Now, I don't know if y'all know, but, like, when you are anything like that, it causes, like, a lot of, I don't want to say side effect, but a lot of things to come up inside of you or whatever like that. So you know, later on in life, you know, I started probably like 6th grade. I was feeling myself. I was taking pictures of myself or whatever, so-called, you know. I wasn't fooling around with nobody or nothing like that, but I was, you know, very promiscuous. I liked it, taking pictures of myself. I used to send it to people, things of that nature. So around high school, my 9th grade year, I ended up talking to a 12th grader. At the time, you know, everything was cool or whatever like that, but then he started, as I was saying, like, my 9th grade year, you know, at the time I was trying to get kicked out of the house because, I actually ended up staying with my sister or whatever, because me and my parents was not staying out with anything. So they ended up letting me stay with my sister, so I was staying with my sister. So December 20th, 2018, the 12th grader that I had, you know, stopped fooling around with, he wanted me to come to the cafeteria, but like I said, I didn't want to go do anything with him anymore, because he was trying to make me do things I didn't want to do. So one of his friends had followed me around school. God. I was walking with a friend, waiting for my sister to come pick me up. The friend mother ended up coming to get her, so I was walking by myself. The friend ended up catching me by myself and dragged me into the cafeteria with the boy and then another boy. But only the 12th grade that I was fooling around with ended up, doing what he did to me. Over with, I ran out and I ran to the band room because at the time my brother was in band, but he wasn't in the band room. So I get a hammer out the band room, finna go back to the person that did what he did to me.
Okay.
And then my brother and a couple of his band friends was like walking in the breezeway to where I was headed or whatever. So my brother seen me. I had on some black thick leggings, a black and white rose looking shirt, and a jean jacket. And my brother seen me. He asked me what had happened. I told him what happened, just crying and everything. So we ended up going to the library where all the staff was, and I told the principal what happened. He did nothing, all because the student who did it was a popular student, plus his uncle worked at the school, and I wasn't popular at all. Nobody really liked me. I was bullied, so I told my sister what happened. She ended up sending me back home with my parents. My parents was like, if I wasn't dressed in hoish or whatever, it would not happen to me or whatever. So by the time we go back to school, nothing was done. I was being bullied. The boy ended up making a song about me. Yeah, so it was horrible. I tried to, unalive myself and everything because of the situation. Like, nothing was done. So, I was just doing things to try to get kicked out of the home because I wasn't, nobody heard me, nobody seen me, nobody understood me. So that is how I ended up getting expelled from school because I did something, and it led me to getting expelled from school basically. And that is how I ended up with being able to go around my biological family or whatever. So like I said, after he got put in prison and everything like that, the dude that he told the situation to, he had hit me up like probably a few months after I had my son or whatever like that. He was like, hey, I know the situation, I know who the child father is or whatever, I'm just trying to make sure you're okay. So at that time he was going through his thing, I was going through my thing because both families were still kind of mad about the situation. It was just a lot going on at the time, so really nobody was like, I don't want to say fooling with me, but in a way that's what it was. So I ended up conversing back and forth with him later on down the line. I was 17 at the time when we started messing around or whatever like that. And then later on down the line, we ended up clashing because I found out he put his hands on women or whatever like that. So we ended up not talking for a while or whatever, all because he went to jail. But at the time I didn't know that. So he had started back talking to me or whatever like that. And then around 2022 we was it wasn't no secret anymore. Everybody knew we was dealing with each other, this and that and the other. My biological family is actually intertwined with his family. His nephew is friends with my cousins. They went to school together. So, it was like family conflict. Like, they didn't want to be in a situation or whatever. But they did tell me that I shouldn't be messing with him. Because, mind you, the man was like 30-something years old. Which I knew that. I shouldn't be messing with him. But I did. I thought I was in love. But I wasn't. So, around 2022, I was pregnant with my middle child. And he was very abusive. Mentally, physically, emotionally, verbally, all of the above. I was so small to the point where like people was thinking that I was on some hard drugs, but I was very much stressed out and depressed.
I'm surprised that none of her family members call up. Well, I ain't gonna say I'm surprised. Her family members should have called the police, bro. Man, listen, I got a sister. I know she mentioned she had a brother. People let you do what you want to do, I guess. But man, if I got a young sibling like that, bro, and I found out that nigga that age, man, nigga, I'm getting you up out of here, nigga. You going to jail, straight up. You know what I'm saying? You going to jail.
I ended up my daddy ended up getting unalive during that time while I was pregnant. I think I was like 3 centimeters dilated.
Rest in peace to her father.
During the time he had got unalived or whatever. And like the day we had my father's funeral was the same day I had my daughter. My auntie was there to, help me through everything. But like when it came down to birth, like I was in there pushing my baby out by myself, and the nurses in there too. My child father was at the hospital, but he was too busy on the phone with us. So, as I was saying, my child father was at the hospital, but he was too busy on the phone with other females trying to get sexual favors, basically, whatever like that. But I didn't know that at the time until later on down the line. My auntie had told me. So, I was already feeling some type of way because of the situation that had happened to my dad. I had we had my father's funeral that morning, and then about 10 something that night I had my baby. So, like a lot, I was going through postpartum depression. I was already depressed anyway, so the depression on top of the postpartum, I wasn't able to grieve my father because I was pregnant. So, like after I had my baby or whatever, I got released home, but I was staying with my auntie, my biological auntie's father at the time. So, I was bad off. I should not have been around no kids, nobody, because I tried to unalive myself as well as my kids. Now why? I don't. It was postpartum,
man.
baby. Like I said, I was depressed. It was just a lot going on.
Damn.
At the time or whatever. So my support system came through. Everybody made sure that I was okay. The baby was okay. Everybody was okay or whatever. And a year after that, we ended up moving in together. Worst decision ever. His son ended up coming to stay with us. He had a 11. I think his son was 11 at the time when he came to stay with us. I was taking care of the son, my kids, and him. Working 3 different jobs, trying to make sure bills stayed afloat because he was never really home. He always stayed going out with his friend or whatever. And when he did have a job, that money didn't go towards the bills. He was a pothead. So, and when he didn't have his pot, he was very abusive, very angry, like very emotional, like it was horrible. So, I ended up like a couple of years down the line, we moved from that apartment, moved to another apartment, because we ended up getting evicted out of the apartment that we was in because I couldn't keep up with the bills. So we ended up moving to another apartment, and that's when I was really like detaching myself from him, mentally, physically, emotionally, all of the above or whatever. And he was horrible, but I just thought I was so in love. I really did. Like I destroyed a lot of friendships, bridges, and everything because of this man, because I had strong feelings for him. I just thought he was the one. So yeah, I ended up kicking him out the last thing. I was detaching myself from him and everything like that, and I had finally got to a point where I was just sick and tired of him. So we ended things mutually. We ended things or whatever like that, but he was still staying in my apartment. At the time I had it upstairs and downstairs, so I let him sleep in the downstairs part. I slept in the main bedroom, and my kids slept in their room. And I was, I had moved on. Once I'm done, once I officially detach myself from you in all aspects, I move on. And I did. And he was very, he didn't like that. He didn't like that because I was beneficial for him. I was
Of course.
in his own words, I was an ATM machine and in-house, what.
Oh, wow.
So one day I had came home one day, and I was on the phone with a dude or whatever like that. He didn't like that. He was like, "You disrespected me." He took my phone and threw it across the room. Had a McDonald's cup full of iced tea, threw it at my face. It was horrible. So I ended up snapping because I know I'm not the type where you just can sit here and put your hands on me, do all this and that and the other or whatever. So we ended up getting into a fight or whatever like that. I was actually on, after I had got my phone back, I had called one of my homegirls or whatever like that, and I propped the phone up so she could, see everything that was going on. And I at that point I was done. I was tired of him putting his hands on me and everything. So I ended up going to the car, and I had got his gun out the car, and I was trying to unalive him or whatever, because the things that he took me throughout the 5 years was just, it was unacceptable, and I couldn't take it no more. So he ended up leaving. I kicked him out or whatever, and he was stalking me, harassing me. It was horrible. Like, I was still like allowing him to get his child, because I was like, I'm not gonna keep a child from their father or whatever like that, because my parents didn't keep my biological dad away from me, but I know how it feels to like not know where you come from at the time. But at the time, my baby was only one, so it ain't like she really knew much. Plus, when he was around, it ain't like he was doing anything for her. Yeah, he ended up putting his, like, I ended up getting my baby one day when we was doing the exchange or whatever. I was picking up my baby, and he was like trying to cause an argument, all because I told my brother to get my daughter from him because I wasn't at home yet. I was coming home from church actually, and he didn't like that, so he started like a whole little argument. I wasn't finna argue back and forth with him, so I wasn't finna go back and forth with him about that whole situation or whatever. So I ended up getting home before him, and then once he got there, I was getting my baby or whatever like that, and then he was still trying to argue. He walked up to me, licked me from my chin up to my forehead, and I hate that, because for one, you not a dog. Why is you doing that? I wouldn't even let a dog do that to me.
Me either.
I ended up pushing him or whatever with I had my baby in my arm or whatever, and it was a reflex, because why is you doing that? I ended up kicking his car. He put a dent in my car with his 9-10 foot feet. It was like if I still had the picture, you'll see his foot imprint in my car. Then like I'm trying to get away from him at this point. So he I had my baby in my hand, and I was stepping up on the curb or whatever with the car seat, and he literally like pushes me on the ground with my child in my hand, and I ended up fracturing my toe because I was trying to protect my child so she wouldn't get hurt. So that was that. So I was, at the time I had a boyfriend or whatever. I was coming back from another city back to the city I had my apartment at, and he was like literally stalking me. I tell y'all no lie, he was stalking me. Like, the last time I did like a little exchange with him or whatever like that with my child, he was like, "You're lucky we didn't meet up at your apartment, or I would have took you in there, this and that and the other. That's rape, sir. You cannot do that." And he was laughing like it was funny, but it was So I knew then, like, it was just, don't even worry about it, because at this point you don't mind bringing harm to me, you don't mind bringing harm to your child. So I used to come home on the weekends or whenever I could or whatever. And one day I came home, I went to my neighbor's house because I was real cool with my neighbor or whatever. So we stayed at her house, spent the night at her house. He came one night, he was banging on the door, he had a big old gun, and he was like, "I'm gonna kill you, B, I'm gonna do this, I'm gonna do that." And I'm like, "You need to go, like, it's children in here, you scaring the kids and this and that and the other." So my neighbor's neighbor ended up coming out the door, which was a man, and my child's father took off. So I ended up calling the police, telling the police what had happened or whatever like that, and they was saying, I need to get a CPO put out on him and everything like that, and that if he come back, just to do what I gotta do. So he didn't come back that night, he came back that morning. It was Monday morning. My neighbor's mom comes every morning to pick her up, take her kids to school or whatever like that. So they left. No more than 5 minutes later, this man come busting in this lady apartment. He grabs my daughter first, like he's trying to kidnap her. So I'm fighting him for my daughter, like tugging back and forth, like, "Give me my child, give me my..." And he was like, we was fighting back and forth over my daughter or whatever like that. Like, "Give me my child, give me my child." So I get my child back, and I tell her brother, I say, "Dylan, take Melissa upstairs. Y'all don't need to see this." And like, before I could even finish my sentence, he grabs me by my vagina and just starts slinging me around. And at that time, all I could do was scream or whatever, because like I'd never expect him to do anything like that. So as I'm screaming, my neighbor comes out of his apartment. Well, my neighbor's neighbor comes out of his apartment, and he comes, and my child father shoots out the door, running and laughing or whatever, and pulls off or whatever. So my neighbor's neighbor sat with me until my friend had came back, and my daddy came, everybody came, or whatever, because I didn't feel safe no more. I didn't feel comfortable. I didn't feel none of that. I was ready to go. So I called my boyfriend, and he came down, and I said, I can't do it no more. I didn't want to stay there anymore. It was just too much traumatic stuff that didn't happen in that, area, in that apartment, around that apartment. Then I just couldn't take it no more. So I packed up my stuff, and me and my kids, we left, and we moved to the city we in now. And, it's been nonstop harassment, trying to paint a picture of me being a bad mother, like I'm keeping him from his child. Your actions are keeping you from your child, sir, not me. You got people texting me this and that and the other. Now, mind you, you done threatened me, you done threatened my kids, you done threatened my husband. To a certain extent, and yes, I did a TPO 2024, and it was up 2025. And during that whole time, he was still doing what he wanted to do. He didn't care. He didn't care at all. So after that TPO was up, I ended up making another TPO because then he was texting my family talking about he was going, basically it's her funeral. Make sure my daughter is out the way. Make sure she's taken care of. You're threatening me. You're threatening me. So I put out another TPO or whatever. He don't say nothing to me directly, but now I'm at a point in life where I'm just, I'm trying to, I want to move, I really do, but it is what it is, right? So when it comes down to you people up here on this internet trying to talk about me, baby, I done been through too much. Nothing you people on this internet can say is gonna hurt my feelings, okay? I done been hurt enough in life, and I'm choosing to be happy. I'm choosing to have peace. I'm choosing love. I'm choosing all of that. Because if you was to walk in my shoes, y'all probably would not even made it through it. So that's the end of it. Oh, I forgot to add a part. So the last time we did, this previous TPR I just did, we went to court January the 5th of this year.
Okay.
And but everybody was, it was a lot of people at court that day, I'm not gonna lie, but most everybody had went into side courtrooms or whatever like that. So the judge that we had, she didn't know she had people on her docket or whatever like that. So we was waiting, I got down there at 9 o'clock. It was, I didn't get out, I got down there by 8:30 because the courthouse was in the city that he lived in. I had to be down there or whatever. So everybody was in court already. So my advocate that was handled my case for me and everything, the judge wanted to speak to her, and the lawyer that was for somebody else's case or whatever like that. So it's about 9:30. They done went back there with the judge. The police officers are all in the courtroom. So it's just me, my husband, my witnesses, and then everybody else who's supposed to be in that judge courtroom. We was all sitting outside the courtroom or whatever like that. He ended up coming up the stairs. He about to break his neck. My husband is standing over there on the banister. Me and my friend, we sitting on the bench or whatever. And we talking, and she tapped me, and I was like, what? So there he goes. He about to break his neck, trying to look at my husband or whatever like that. So he goes over there by my husband. He was like, I've been waiting to see you, just in the courthouse, just starting rambunctious, okay? So he was like, I've been waiting to see the other. And my husband well, you see me, I'm here, what it is. So I'm like, I tell my husband, I said, come on, sit by me or whatever, because we ain't even do all that. We don't even say nothing to him. It ain't even like that, for real. We ain't got to do all that. So he was like, yeah, go sit by your wife. I said, yeah, right, his wife. So then he just started saying, my child father ended up just blurting out stuff. He was like, you ate, he telling this to my husband now, ain't you the one who ate my ass, this and that and the other? That was their first encounter. They never even seen each other in real life before. So people out there, everybody looking around did he really just say that? He was just out there acting a plum dumb fool. So thankfully, the judge, my advocate was like, y'all can come on in or whatever like that. So I'm like, me, my friend, and my baby daddy, my husband, sorry, we was trying to go to the opposite side of the courtroom or whatever so we could be away from him. He done followed us to the opposite side of the courtroom. So my advocate was like, yeah, no, come on over here, y'all come sit over here. So they ended up starting with our case first because he was he like, me and him was there. It was okay. So after everything was said and over and done with, this was like right after, well, probably before like my daddy ended up passing. Gonna find out, my biological mother, I had got back in contact with her. Like, once I moved out of my parents' house and everything, I had started talking to her. And our first encounter was not good, baby. Like, she wanted to fight me and everything because she had slept with the uncle that raped me. And then she also slept with my middle child's father as well. At the time, I was born, but I wasn't in her care. The only person that was in her care was my little brother. So my middle child's father was taking care of my little brother at that time. And she was mad at me because they had messed with me as well. But like I told her, how was I supposed to know that you had, did anything with these boys? At the time, they were kids, and she was like in her 20s. They were still like teenagers or whatever. Anywho, but how was they supposed to know that you was my mother or that I was your daughter if you never mentioned it or said anything or whatever like that? So yeah, she was, That part was crazy. Like, I don't think I'm gonna ever get over that. And she used to her husband, like, whenever, because my mama is a loony bin. She's a loony bin for real. She tried to kidnap me from FIFt, so she a loony bin. But anywho, like, she used to tell her husband, because anytime my mama would get on a rampage or whatever, he would call me. He was like, you need to call your mother, like, she on one. Mind y'all, I ain't never seen my mama in person. Like, I want to, but I never seen her in person. Like, I've always talked to her through the phone calls and stuff, but like in person, it's never happened. Anywho, but she would tell her husband, you don't need to be talking to her. She gonna have sex with you like she did with my other mans. Girl, but yeah, that's my ghetto life. That's my ghetto life. I done made the best of what my situation and the cards that was dealt to me, and things are much better now, thank God.